What's up, fam? Welcome back to the channel. We've selected the perfect gym for us from our last video, and we're thinking about going. But what exercises do we do once we get there? Listen to today's video to explore ways that you can improve your body in areas like conditioning, muscle size, and flexibility. I've been programming for folks as a personal trainer for over 8 years, and now been helping people in pain as a doctor of physical therapy for almost 3 years. I've helped people with their range of motion, their strength, their sport performance, their overall outlook on life even. Today we're going to explore a few of these training principles and how to get started in the gym on these yourself. Quick disclaimer here, if you have no formal education on exercise and you haven't read on the principles like specificity, hypertrophy, muscle endurance, and strength, I strongly recommend working with a personal trainer or having someone like me program for you so that you don't end up wasting time and not reaching your fitness goals. The first training principle that we're going to talk about is flexibility. Range of motion is the amount a joint can move around the body, and through our lives and our workouts and just our leisure activities, general routines, we can lose range of motion, and in order to get the most out of our workouts and ultimately our lives, we want to optimize the amount of range of motion we have and maintain this flexibility over time. We can do this in a few ways, namely static stretching and isometric holds at end range. A static stretch is something you're probably familiar with. Touching your toes, going down, and holding that position for 30 seconds to a minute. I think for this to be most effective, there's gotta be more time that you put into that stretch. The more you stretch, the more you're gonna improve your flexibility. Now, I think these isometric holds at end range happen to be a little more valuable to improving our range of motion because most people aren't grossly limited in your range of motion. They're just a little bit limited because of our sitting and our posture. So these holds, imagine I've got a wall here, and I'm gonna bring my arm all the way back, and I'm gonna try and bring it forward against the wall. So I'm not moving in space, but I'm activating that muscle and kind of stretching it while the muscle is active. This is different than our static stretch, which is a more passive kind of movement. Our next training principle is conditioning or cardiovascular endurance. You might have heard this called cardio. This is the capacity of the heart, lungs, and blood vessels to deliver oxygen and other nutrients to the exercising muscle during prolonged physical activity. Now, the important thing to know about this kind of exercise is there is a dose-related response to the amount of exercise that you do. What this means is the more you do, the better you get at it. The more you run, the better you'll get at running. Obviously, you don't want to overtrain and hurt yourself, but if we purely talk about gains made over time, the more you do, the better you'll get. The next most important piece on this particular type of exercise is the principle of specificity. If we want to run a marathon, we don't want to do a bunch of cycling and rowing because these aren't the things that we're training for. We're training to run. So if we're trying to, say, do a marathon or do a cycling competition, we need to be training that specific activity, that specific cardiovascular exercise. Be as specific to the kind of thing that you want to improve upon in your training. The final way that we can kind of make changes to our body is improving our muscle size, also known as hypertrophy. We can do this with any amount of resistance as long as we get close to failure. You might hear some people talk about repetitions in reserve, RIR. This is sort of a boiled down version of how close you are to failure. You have 2 reps left in the tank. So let's say you could do 10, but you're getting to that point at 8. 8 is a good set if that's where you're failing. Now, failure is not the same as a muscle burn sensation. True muscle failure is what we're talking about here. This is unable to lift the weight more. Literally unable to lift your arm overhead again. Now, this becomes easier, or I would say maybe quicker, at a moderate amount of weight. If you're gonna do this with 2.5 pound weights, it's going to take a lot of repetitions for you to get down to that true failure point. you might be burning a lot quicker before you actually fail. That's why most bodybuilders who are interested in improving their hypertrophy do moderate amounts of weight and fail between 8 to 12 reps. We get some muscle burn, but we're failing around that same time. You can obviously do less weight and more reps, or you can do fewer reps with more weight. Either is fine as long as we're getting close to this true muscle failure point. One last thing I want to talk about when starting on your exercise journey is taking a baseline. These are important so that we know if we're truly making progress in the areas that we want to, and to what extent we're making that progress. This can be things like how easy it is for me to touch my toes. If I could get to my mid-shin at the beginning and now I can touch my toes easily, we've obviously made some improvements there. Another way to look at flexibility is maybe how easy it is for me to get my arm to my ear, my upper arm to my ear, because that's a good measure of full range of motion. Another way to measure cardio activity is how long it takes for you to complete a mile run. If it took you 20 minutes at the beginning and now it's taking you 10, it's obviously improved. Your cardiovascular endurance is better. You can look at how many times you can lift a particular weight. If you're gonna bench press 100 pounds and you can only get 10 at the beginning, but now you're able to do 20, that's a show of improved muscular strength. We can also look at circumferences of particular parts of our body, like biceps, our waist, our hips. All of these things can show either improvements in size or weight loss, if that's your goal. Another way to track your weight is just making sure that the scale is going in the right direction, down. You can also take pictures of your physique, and I think that is a good indicator of how you're showing improvements in changing your physique. Remember, these things take time. These do not change overnight. So these have been 3 specific training principles that you can start to do to help your body be what you want it to be. If you need specific help on programming these activities, please reach out to me via email. I'm working on a website right now, so it'll be easier to get a hold of me in the future. Thank you all for coming, and remember to leave a like and a subscription down below so you never miss another gym video. Much love, fam, and keep doing the hard stuff.